24-10 here at the Big House. Michigan beats Wisconsin. That's Brock Heilig. I'm Dennis Fithian. We are from the Maize and Blue Review. And Brock, what are your thoughts about this victory today?
Definitely nothing to write home about, Dennis. It wasn't the prettiest of games. It didn't look the cleanest. But hey, a win's a win, and that's what Sharon Moore said in the post-game press conference. They're going to celebrate it because it's a win. They got the job done, and they're 4-1 now, 2-0 in the Big Ten, and looking forward to going out west to USC to try and make it 3-0 next week.
Yeah, Sharon shouldn't apologize for a win, but most of this game, the fans were grumbling, and I think with good reason. They're coming off the bye, and you're hoping to come out and show improvement and look like you're a team that's ready to make a push in the second half and not only be a top 25 team, but get to the college football playoffs. And it was really about the offense. Can you get the offense and in particular the passing game going? And that wasn't the case. After the first two drives, both teams had touchdown drives there for 75 yards. Michigan looked like they were stuck. They really weren't blocking well. You could look at the play calling. When they did pass, it looked like the pass protection wasn't all that hot. I mean, you're sitting there at 10-7 at the half, and you're kind of shrugging your shoulders. It wasn't really till, it was a little bit over 4 minutes to go in the third quarter when Donovan McCulley, who was about 10 yards from where we're at, ended up hauling in a catch. At first they said it wasn't, and they went back and looked at it. Then they went to a trick play, which was a pretty sweet trick play. I'd like to look at it again. And then they threw it to McCulley, and he pinballed it into the end zone, and it was like the sky opened up a little bit. And I think they played off of that. McCulley looked like he was somebody that was, you want somebody to stand up and say, give me the damn ball. I'm ready to do something. I'm ready to be the wide receiver number one. And it looked like that. And then Underwood looked like he had some things going there in the fourth quarter, maybe some rhythm. And then with the whole wide receiving core, I'd give a shout out to Andrew Marsh, who got in there and started the game, and he looked the part. His first two catches, he made two. He wasn't wide open and just standing there. He went up and made the play on the ball. So I like that.
Yeah, you hit on it. You could feel the restlessness from the crowd. It was, like you mentioned, each team had the game-opening touchdown drives, the 75-yarders for both teams, and after that, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Dominic Zvada had a field goal. I think it was 40 yards out, and other than that, the teams were kind of just trading punts. There weren't many exciting plays. There were no big turnovers other than the Rod Moore interception later in the second half there. But there was not a lot of action at all. It seemed like Samaj Morgan was going out to field the punt every 10 minutes. He was constantly running out there, and but you're right. Andrew Marsh, Donovan McCulley, those were the two guys that really stood out to me at wide receiver. And Michigan needs guys to step up. It has not been Samaj Morgan. Channing Goodwin has struggled to catch the ball. Fred Moore left the team, right? So there's just been a lot of turnover and struggles with the wide receivers this season. And it was really, really good to see Donovan McCulley and Andrew Marsh step up. I think those are going to be your top two guys clearly moving forward. They have to be because they performed really well today. But yeah, it did seem like Michigan kind of found an offensive rhythm there in the second half and really got things working. Maybe that'll carry over into USC next week, but it was definitely good to see things start to click there in the second half.
Yeah, sometimes you're watching this game, you say if they play like this against USC next week, they're not going to win. But, it's going to be completely different. USC brings a completely different totally different animal at night out in L.A. with, what Michigan should be able to do on the ground. And then you think about all these young corners that they're going to play a big part in next week's game as well. Samaj Morgan is pretty interesting. Sometimes you watch him, and in this particular game here, he had another drop, and then he had one where he was bobbling it and fumbling it. And you talk about the adventures on the punt return. It was like, why don't they just sit him down? But then you could tell they made a concerted effort to get him the ball, and then he did catch a punt and had a 15-yard return. So, I don't know, he's obviously skilled, and he's a playmaker, but he's also... We've said it since the beginning of the season that it's just a matter of time that he's going to cost the team a game. So I don't know, there just seem like they're I don't know if they're playing hot potato, they're playing with a ticking time bomb kind of thing. I don't know what to do there, but I've said this for a couple weeks now too. It'd be nice to get Hogan Hansen back, as another reliable pass catcher. So I don't know the offense. Did Sharon have anything to say about the offensive line? Did he like anything going on there, or with Bryce Underwood with that offensive line?
He didn't mention much about the offensive line, but he did talk about Bryce. He said just continuing to get better and better and better every week, and I think we have seen that from him. He had 270 yards today, which was a season high, and just one touchdown, but he didn't need to throw for any more than that. I mean, Michigan won comfortably by 2 scores, and so that's really all it is for Underwood, is just continuing to get better and better and better and get more comfortable. The game will slow down for him over time, and I think we've started to see that through these first 5 games. Even though he didn't look overwhelmed at the beginning, he definitely does look comfortable now in the offense, throwing for 270 yards and a touchdown, picking apart the defense. And hey, it probably would have been a 300-yard day if it weren't for the drops, right? It could have been. I mean, Samaj had the drop there right before halftime, and Max Bredesen had a drop, and so did Kendrick Bell. It probably would have added up to 300 yards. So I think we're starting to see Underwood settle in. As for the offensive line, like I said, Sharon didn't really mention much about them. They're an interesting group for me to watch because there are times when they look really good, like on Justice Haynes' 43-yard run there in the first quarter. And then there are times when guys will just totally whiff, and the defensive lineman is sitting there in the Michigan backfield waiting for Underwood to hand the ball to Haynes or Marshall, and it's like the defensive lineman and Haynes are just sitting in the backfield having dinner, right? And so it's really odd how there are times when they can look really good and really complete, and then there are other times when they look completely lost. And so I do think that's something to monitor going forward. If they can find some consistency, I think we'll start to see Michigan really start humming on offense.
Yeah, it's interesting with Underwood. You have to get you want the running game and passing game to feed off of one another, and we didn't really have that. And then they did get that 3-play drive, the 2 plays, I guess you call it the McCulley drive, but I really thought that Underwood was getting some mojo and some rhythm. He ran around and he was making a play, and then he threw that one to Kendrick. He escaped, and then he was able to. I mean, that was a hell of a play. And then Bell dropped. It was so deflating. So yeah, he's gonna keep getting better. Even though it's not always. You watch him, and this is what I thought myself. I guess I'm telling myself to remind myself that I keep thinking that every game he's just getting better and better and better, and he's just going to be a shooting star the whole way. Well, it's probably going to go a little bit up and a little bit as long as he's just keep at the end. He's way up here. But to me, I'll ask you your biggest takeaway. I don't know. You want to give your biggest takeaway first, or you want me to give mine?
I'll go first. I touched on it a little bit, but the wide receivers really stepping up. I think that's huge. And even I'll give you another one too, because I know we already touched on the wide receivers, especially Marsh and McCulley. But Rod Moore coming back, he was in the post-game press conference, and his family was in there, and he probably got 75% of the questions, even with 3 other players sitting up there. Everyone was focused on Rod Moore, and it was just really good to see him back and have an interception in this game at the Big House. His first game back here since 2023 against Ohio State, when he ended that one on Kyle McCord, that interception that he had there. But we heard about it all throughout his rehab. He's Coach Rod. He's like another coach on the field, and he's that knowledgeable about the game. And we saw that out here today. He had the interception. He had a few plays where the Michigan defense was completely fooled on
that end around, right? Yeah,
end around, and Rod Moore came and saved the day. And then on the one when Wisconsin was throwing, they rolled out to the right and then threw it back to the left, and Rod Moore was there to break up the play, or else that would have been a 40-plus yard play too. So there were times when Michigan was really fooled on defense, and Rod Moore came and saved the day, and that's what you expect out of him. And he's a 5th-year senior, and he's been around for a while. It's crazy to think that he was playing in the 2021 Ohio State game, which feels like an eternity ago, but he was impactful back then, and he's impactful today, and it's crazy to think that, but that's what he means to this program, and it was really good to have him back. He actually mentioned post-game that 2 weeks ago at Nebraska, he was still feeling a little bit of pain in his knee, but today he was moving around pain-free and was able to play without any restrictions. So really good to hear that, and excited to watch him going forward.
Yeah, I can remember when he was a true freshman in the Happy Valley making a 4th down play on Jahan Dotson, who's been in the pros for 3 years now and was a first-round pick. Yeah, Rod Moore's a great player, and he makes plays, and that's what he did today. It's almost burying that interception because Michigan did have that 3-play drive, but then Wisconsin came out and hit him with a pretty big pass, and then they were throwing deep again, and there was pass interference on that particular play, but, that didn't have anything to do with Rod coming up with the interception, so that was good. My biggest takeaway is that this offense needs to match the defense if they want to go somewhere, and I know where they want to go. They want to go to the college football playoff, and they can't afford, the margin of error is pretty small. I mean, they can't lose more than one game. So whatever it is, I mean, okay, you want to just keep winning or winning ugly or whatever it is, it's got to be better. Because when I look at the front seven, and now I'm looking at Rod Moore, I'm looking at the hitman Hillman as a safety. The corners, I don't know if it's good or bad. They play a bunch of young ones. And they got Barry back, and they got Hill, and we'll find out because along with the pass rush, the corner is going to be pretty big against USC. But I feel like the front seven, that's a playoff, college football playoff front seven. And on offense, I think Underwood can get there, but I don't know who Haynes. Haynes is a hell of a player. He can be someone that you talk about that is going to be one of the best playmakers in college football, but they need the line. They need the pass catchers, and that's the tight ends and the wide receivers. And to me, I know that's a long way, a lot of talking there to talk about my takeaways, saying the offense needs to step it up. I know they know that, and I don't know if it's Sharon Moore. I don't want to say he's crawled into a shell along with Chip Lindsey, but it seems like it's not even so much predictable. It's just that it's just not clicking. And so they need to find a way somehow, and maybe it is a little bit more gambling. Or they should have swagger. I mean, they've got Bryce frickin' Underwood and Justice Haynes, one of the best running backs in the country. This offense should be better. They need to get better. That's my biggest takeaway. Anything from I'll tell you, I'll try to give people take them into the Wisconsin locker room afterwards with Luke Fickell, but anything else Sharon Moore or anybody else had to say in the Michigan locker room?
He didn't mention much afterward. I mean, he was very, very vague with a lot of his answers. He did say that it was good to be back. He mentioned that his absence was like torture, being away from the team for those 8 days, but now he's back, and he did say that with the drops that the wide receivers have been having, the worst thing that you can say to them in that instance is, hey, just catch the ball, because then it gets a whole lot more mental for them. And if you have a drop and your coach comes up to you and says, just catch the ball, well, you're going to be thinking that when you're trying to catch the ball, and it makes it a lot harder to actually, haul it in. So he was kind of talking about coaching that and just keeping the guys confident, even amidst all the drops that Michigan's had, which it's been 14 drops through 5 games, almost 3 per game, which is crazy if you think about it. I mean, that's almost 1 a quarter. And it's been truly, I mean, just a sight to behold how many times these receivers have been dropping the ball. It's costing Underwood yards, and 2 weeks ago against Nebraska, it cost him a touchdown there in the end zone on that beautiful pass to Goodwin. So that was something that Sharon hit on post-game, but I'd like to see these guys get a little more aggressive, especially in 4th down situations.
Yeah.
There was the 4th and inches. I mean, it was not even a foot, I don't think.
Sneak it there even from your own 30, you'd have done that? I think I would have.
I would have considered it. Yeah.
I would have done it.
Yeah, I mean, you got a 6'4", 230-pound quarterback, and an All-American in Justice Haynes, and so get a little aggressive. I mean, you can trust your defense to, even if you give them the ball at the 30, trust the defense to hold them to a field goal, and you're fine. But I think Michigan would be able to pick up the first down in that situation, and they faced a couple other 4th and shorts throughout the game, and really just no thought of going for it, other than the one later in the game when it was kind of already taken care of. It was 4th and 2.
Yeah, 17-7 there.
Yeah, and of course Greg Crippen snaps it at Underwood's ankles and he has to fall on it, and they don't even get to run a real play. But I would like to see Michigan get a little more aggressive and really, I mean, I feel like that would get the offense more in a rhythm. If, hey, we pick up a 4th down, yeah, let's go, and then you keep the drive moving, keep it going, instead of, we're just going to punt it away and lean on the defense, which hasn't been a bad strategy for Michigan in recent years, but you got Bryce Underwood at quarterback, you can afford to be a little aggressive. So I'd like to see Michigan kind of adopt that strategy going forward.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Wisconsin, Luke Fickell sounded like a coach that's under fire in his third year. And look, today he was playing a backup quarterback and actually did a pretty good job, hanging in there with Michigan until the third quarter. And then they gave up those big plays to McCulley. But he was scrambling up there at the podium. He got a question about Bryce Underwood, and he snapped like, we're talking Wisconsin." It's like, just answer the question. We know who cares about what you're thinking there. You should have just answered it. And then at the end, I was going to ask him. They weren't just free flowing with the questions. Finally, somebody did ask him about the end of the game and not taking timeouts. That was going to be my question for him. And he said, if we would have got a first down, we would have taken one. But then the reporter followed up about, what did you think about Michigan running no huddle there at the end? He said, we'll remember that. I don't know what he's talking about. If you go back and analyze it, maybe he's right with the clock and everything else. Michigan's trying to work on some things. I don't know about no huddle. They could have punched it in at the end. Now, if they would have punched it in at the very end, with 3 seconds to go, to pad, I could see him being like, well, remember that one or whatever. We still got to stop him.
Yeah.
He could have been pissed off about that, but, being pissed off when he could have called some timeouts and at least had Michigan, attempt a field goal, and then, you get an onside kick and anything can happen. But it was like, I was watching it and it felt like he gave up. So, so that's it. And I think for Michigan, USC at night, I think the running game, this is, I think Sharon Morse and Chip Lindsey are going to be really happy. Because I think when you watch how USC played against Illinois was able to just pound them on the ground. And, the Michigan's licking their chops to do that. I think this particular game is going to be on the defense and the pass rush and these young corners, along with Barry and Hill, but they're playing a bunch of these guys, so that's the focus for me. But that's a very winnable game.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sitting over here saying, going out to L.A., it's going to be tough. But I think that they want to be in the playoffs. That's the kind of game they got to win.
Absolutely. They need to take care of that one, and hey, after that, the schedule gets pretty favorable up until Ohio State comes to town. And so you figure if you leave Los Angeles with a win, you're 5-1. You're looking at potentially being 10-1 going into that Ohio State game, still undefeated in Big Ten play. Of course, that's still a ways away, and Michigan's got a lot of games to take care of before that. But you do start thinking, if Michigan can get out of the Coliseum out there in LA with a win, you start to think, okay, now we might be looking at a playoff appearance or a Big Ten championship.
Playoff? Would you say if they beat USC that there would be then more of a chance to make the playoffs than not? Because that's kind of the way I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
They could even be looking at a bye in the playoffs. If they beat USC, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, you're looking at 12-1, and I think that'd earn them a bye.
What's the ceiling for Michigan overall? I mean, you talk about playoffs and a bye. I mean, you start talking about Final Four. You start talking about one of the better teams in the country. I don't know. When I look at the quarterback position, I wouldn't trade Bryce Underwood for anybody out there. Even he didn't play great today, but watching him and knowing what kind of player he is now, seeing him, I wouldn't trade him. But the offense has got to get a lot better. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling on there about that. I think the playoffs, and you're talking about winning a game or two. So to me, that's the ceiling. That was the question. All right, you got any final things you want to say?
It's going to be a season-defining game next week at USC. I mean, you lose that one. That's my bold take, is season-defining game out there in the Coliseum. We've seen last year and this year teams struggle when they go multiple time zones, either out west or the West Coast teams coming out east, really struggling to win those games. And of course, Ohio State had no problem with Washington last week. They kind of debunked that theory, but it's still proven true. So Michigan's got to come ready to play, and like I said, if you're 5-1 through the first half, the second half's looking very favorable. But if you lose, you're 4-2. It's a big difference. You can kind of feel being 3-0 versus 2-1 in the Big Ten as well. So it's season defining in my opinion, and they got to go out there and be ready to win a dogfight.
Brock, great job. You weathered this 85-degree heat here on the Michigan Stadium turf, and they say, it's 10 degrees hotter out here, so I guess it's 95 degrees, although the sun's went down, so it doesn't feel like 85 right now. My final takeaway is if you want more Michigan coverage, you should go to On3 Rivals and then smash the subscribe button for the Maize and Blue Review. Get instant access. We'll see you over there. All the stuff that we talk about right now, we'll be talking about all night, all day, all week long, and then as things develop, we'll be hitting on those as well. So on 3, you go there and you see it. Michigan smash the Maize and Blue Review, and you get to see all of Brock's inside work, and that's worth it just for that. So, all right, homecoming. Time for all the old guys and gals to go out and act like they're 19 again. Be safe out there.